Russia's invasion of Ukraine almost a year ago has acted as a catalyst for formerly neutral countries Sweden and Finland to seek NATO membership. 28 of the military alliance's 30 members have ratified the two countries' accession, leaving only Turkey and Hungary as holdouts. Officials seem confident that Hungary will eventually agree, leaving Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan as the chief obstacle. But not everyone in Turkey is opposed to this latest expansion, and one man in Istanbul has a particularly inclusive approach. Julia Hahn has more.
This unassuming local restaurant is an institution in Istanbul. NATO serves traditional Turkish dishes, and it's been doing so since 1952, the year Turkey joined the NATO military alliance. Mevlüt Öztürk is the boss here, and he is proud that his restaurant is so popular, with locals and foreigners alike. Everyone is welcome to join his NATO, he says.
My customers come from all around the world. From Japan, China, Finland, Sweden, from Germany, the US. Not everyone can join the NATO alliance, but in my NATO, no one gets turned away.
Turkey is famous for its hospitality. At the highest political level, however, the world is currently experiencing quite the opposite. When it comes to enlarging the NATO military alliance, the Turkish government has been presenting itself for months as a gatekeeper who doesn't let anyone in. Russia's war against Ukraine has raised major security concerns in Europe. That is why countries like Sweden and Finland, which have long been opposed to NATO membership, now want to join. But all NATO members have to agree to this. And this is exactly how Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is putting on the brakes. He accuses Sweden and Finland of being too lenient with groups that Ankara considers terrorists, including the Kurdish militant PKK, which is also on the EU list of terrorist organizations.
Countries where PKK members can run riot in the streets, hold rallies under police protection, and extort significant sums of money should not become NATO members. This would not benefit NATO at all. Rather, it undermines its values.
Erdogan blames Kurdish militants for attacks in Turkey, such as the bombing in Istanbul in November. He says Sweden and Finland are harboring people with links to terrorist groups and has demanded extraditions to Turkey. Finland and Sweden have promised to take the Turkish concerns seriously and to do more against Kurdish extremists in their countries. But experts think that Erdogan's continued obstruction also has domestic political reasons.
Before elections, Erdogan wants to nurture his image as a leader that is tough in international negotiations, that advances Turkey's cause, and get the support of the domestic constituency. There will be no green light to NATO enlargement until elections.
The next presidential election in Turkey is set to be held by June 2023, so there is still a lot of time for many unforeseen things to happen. But restaurant owner Mevlüt Öztürk knows one thing for sure. In his NATO, the door will always remain open to everyone.
My next guest is Toni Alaranta. He's a senior research fellow at the Finnish Institute of International Affairs. His areas of expertise include Turkey's relations with the West, and his latest book is called Turkey's Foreign Policy Narratives: Implications of Global Power Shifts. Welcome to the day, Mr. Alaranta. Now, tell me, how big is the frustration in Sweden and Finland with Turkey right now?
Well, it's definitely increasing every month or every week now that this thing is stuck. And we have had these voices not only from the Finnish politicians, but from European politicians as well. So I guess there is frustration in other NATO countries as well.
We heard about the PKK issue in the report. Is that really the only reason Turkey continues to block Sweden and Finland from joining NATO?
No, I don't think that's the only reason, and I don't even think that Sweden and Finland are the only issues here. They are only partially about Sweden and Finland. Mr. Erdogan is also using these delaying tactics in order to pressure the US in particular, and especially in terms of the YPG, the Syrian Kurdish group that is related to the PKK and which is fighting against ISIS in Syria. This has been over 10 years now a problem in US-Turkish relationship, and Turkey is definitely using these delaying tactics in terms of this issue as well. And then there is this question of fighter jets that the US has been reluctant to sell. So all of these things need to be considered here, the larger picture.
Is it relevant at all that Erdogan is somehow trying to position himself as a mediator in the Ukraine war? Does he maybe also not want to upset Putin by allowing for an expansion of NATO?
Well, we can, of course, contemplate on that issue as well. I don't think there has been any deals between Mr. Putin and Mr. Erdogan, but the point is that Turkey sees the whole global political view very differently from other NATO countries. It wants to keep its balanced policy regarding Russia, irrespective of the war. So there is a major difference here regarding the other NATO members.
So you're saying this is mostly power play. Is he actually planning on ratifying these two countries at some point? Or is he just going to drag it out until they possibly eventually give up, or this all becomes a farce?
Well, like I would tend to agree with the previous commentator that we need to see the elections now and what will happen afterwards, because of course this is also a domestic tool showing a tough face regarding the PKK issue and showing a tough face against the US and the West in general. These are of course things that can enhance his popularity among the nationalist and conservative voters. I still tend to think that the ratification will come at some point, but this may still take time.
On Twitter, I read that you say that Turkey's demands breach Swedish sovereignty. How so?
Well, this was in reference to the fact that when the Swedish new foreign minister visited Ankara, he was told that Sweden, the government, should overrun a court decision made by the Supreme Court, the Swedish Supreme Court, that rejected the extradition of one particular person from the Gülen movement. And of course, this is a breach of sovereignty in the sense that we have this separation of powers principle here in Finland and Sweden. Our governments, even if they would like to, they cannot overrun the Supreme Court decisions. And of course, Turkish authorities know this very well. This is just their way of playing this game.
Tonja Laranta of the Finnish Institute of International Affairs. Interesting stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.